is up, guys, and welcome to the VisualWood podcast.
Ow, my ear! You're so loud and professional with you.
I could, you know, move back a little bit. Can you hear me from back here?
No, you're gonna.
Is that better for you?
It just makes you sound like you're in a warehouse now. Now, like when you lean back, like it just gets so echoey. It's like I don't know.
Oh boy, yeah, it's because I live in like a little loft. I live in a box, basically.
No, I imagine it to be like this huge, massive room, like with these big white walls or something. That's where I imagine you to live.
Yeah, right.
And I know there's a door next to your PC, but that's about it. And your kitchen's nearby too, because quite a lot of the time I hear you like preparing stuff in the kitchen.
Yeah, like I'll be right back as I fix a meal. And
you can like shout to me from the microwave or something. Yeah.
Yeah, everything's pretty close. The door is not too close, but you know, with the Blue Yeti, it's just like everything just bounces right inside of the microphone. Anyways, isn't it like really hot, like there?
Yeah. Well, my PC was trying to overheat just now, so I've turned up all of the fans. But it's fine. It's fine. I mean, we're always complaining here when it's not hot, so now it is hot.
Your room is not gonna like catch fire like during the podcast or anything like that, right?
If it does, I'll let you know because I'll be screaming and burning to death.
It's okay.
Does that sound like a fair trade?
Of course.
Okay.
Definitely. All right. There's not much to talk about this week with Guildcast. I think not Guildcast. Wow.
Oh!
Wow.
Well, there it is.
There it is. I finally made the mistake.
VisualWood came to me one day and he said, "Look, should we rip off Guildcast?" And this was the result. Oh my god.
With VisualWood, there's not much to talk about. So I guess for these, these episodes where there's not much going on, we'll mostly focus on the fewer questions.
I think that's
it's
smart,
good. Yeah, and kind of talk to you guys, and you guys can leave questions for the next one or whatever.
Which then we'll ignore because it will be a feature update.
No, we won't. No, the episodes will just be longer, and those who like longer episodes will get that.
Speaking of which, last time you were like, this is going to be really long, and you said to everyone that you don't have to watch the footage. To which I joked, I bet you're going to hide something in there. And I noticed people did watch the footage and did find what you hid in there. What is up with that, dude? That's crazy. You can even like pan across the video to see it very clearly. Jesus. Do you want to do the same disclaimer this time though, right? And just let people know that sort of.
Oh yeah. Like all these types of episodes, I'm just gonna have a nice drop box.
I know what you're trying to say. Backdrop.
Backdrop. There we go. Backdrop for the episodes that it's just you can see it turned from night to day and it starts snowing, and I'll pick different areas every podcast, and I'm pretty sure this one's gonna be a different background as well.
You picked a good one last time as well. I was like, oh man, that place looks awesome, especially where you started the video where it was like sunset or something, and there was like so much going on. It's very good, very pretty.
All right,
Did you ever want to be a photographer by any chance?
Did I what?
Did you ever want to be a photographer by any chance?
Yeah, well, I did.
You did,
but
really?
Not really.
Okay.
I actually wanted to be an actor when I was in school.
What changed that?
Life.
This is not off topic.
Life pretty much changed that.
Yeah, having a real understanding of how the world works, and that not everybody can be famous.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much, so things happened, and I ended up here. Boom, bada, boom, boom.
I've genuinely, for a while, wanted to be on radio, and I feel like what I'm currently doing with my life could eventually somehow transition into that. So
you still want to be in radio?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, man. I mean, I listen. Here's the thing, though. I want to be in radio, but I want to be sort of in talk show radio. And I'm not necessarily. I don't consider myself that good with music and stuff. So, but it's like, I feel like to be on the radio, you have to know quite a lot about music, and it's probably quite hard if you're not.
No, not necessarily. There's those guys who talk for like 30 minutes, and then they play a song, and then 30 minutes, and then they play a song, and they like talk about certain things like that. And someone else handles the radio, like they have their own little DJ
the song section.
Yeah,
so I mean, maybe one day it's just a small thing.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go. We're learning things.
Anyways, we probably should talk about Guild Wars 2.
Okay, what's going on? What's going on in Guild Wars 2? Then?
Well, okay. We're gonna talk about a couple of things, but I guess the first one is the vandalism on the Queen's speech.
Right. Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on?
I'd like to hear, because like you're not so much into the story, right? Everyone kind of knows this. What are your thoughts on the vandalism on the page?
Well, what I said in my video was before the vandalism actually took place and before I actually saw this, I was looking at the page and I was like, man, this is so small. What is Guild Wars 2 doing? I mean, they're ending the culling. They're ending the culling in PvE, right? Which is great. It's not much to talk there. It's great, right?
It's good, but it's not really a feature.
Yeah, it's okay, and there was like, man, okay, there's dev, live stream, and then Queen Speech. That's pretty much it. I'm like, okay, that's not enough. And then I was like, man, there has to be more. So I was like making up a story like maybe the crazy Savari from the last Living Story, will come down and and take over the Watch Nights and take over Divinity's Reach and watch it burn and stuff like that.
What I find kind of interesting is on that page, you're right, it doesn't say very much is really going on, and it's probably one of those updates for Guild Wars 2 where less is changing with the game. It's still a lot, I think, to go in, but just compared to other feature updates we've had, it's not so much. But I think it's kind of interesting that Queen Jenna, on that page, it says like Queen Jenna has a surprise for everyone during her speech, and at the same time, everyone's expecting chaos to happen anyway because of this mysterious Sylvari character that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So it's like there's going to be two surprises. First, Queen Jenna's going to be like, aha, here's my speech, and here's all this cool stuff to do with this. And then here's a surprise. And then someone else is going to come in and go, aha, now I'm crashing your party that's already had a surprise with another surprise. I don't know how that's going to work out, but I found that kind of interesting. As for the vandalism itself, really, I mean, I can't add too much to that on specifically who did it. I doubt it was Scarlet herself who vandalized it, but it could have been, one of her cronies, Scarlet presumably being the leader of the Aether Blades and presumably also being this mysterious stranger. It could, it just could have been an Aether Blade that was like, oh, we don't like this. Or, it could have been some of the Ministry Guard. A big thing with humanity is you've got the Seraph and the Ministry Guard, and they're like these two conflicting factions, and in the Living Story at the moment they basically just wrote the Ministry Guard off, and they're like, yeah, you guys just go to the side, they're not going to be a part of this story. And like the only time we hear about them is through Lord Farron. It's ridiculous. But now, like, this page has been vandalized. These are people who don't like the Queen and clearly would therefore have motivation to vandalize stuff to do with her Jubilee. Maybe it was the Ministry Guard that have got something to do with it. I mean, there's no definite way to say. But did you see what happened on Reddit? Which I find hilarious.
Well, Reddit? No. What happened on Reddit?
Okay, so this page got vandalized, and that seems to harken back, or it's very similar to something that happened with Guild Wars 1, where there was a war in Kryta, and during, and sort of as advertisement for that new content in Guild Wars 1, the devs did like an online thing where they basically vandalized pages in very much in a similar way to what we see now. They put out web pages with information about the Shining Blade, and then it would later be updated and there would be like a slash through it or something, or as if someone had torn the poster down or something. Like, they did this kind of thing with Guild Wars 1. And now we're seeing this with this page here. This page has been vandalized, which I guess reminded people of that, because then someone posted on Reddit one of the old White Mantle versus Shining Blade propaganda pieces, which really on itself doesn't mean anything, and it doesn't necessarily tie into this story at all. But then, like, a mod of the subreddit, the Guild Wars 2 subreddit, stickied that page, which sent everyone into a frenzy. Everyone suddenly thought it was this official thing, and it was this crazy thing, and all this Living Story stuff we were seeing was, again, going to tie into the White Mantle and the Messiah and all this just crazy BS, basically. Wow. And it turned out to not be true at all. It was just, like, this embarrassing mistake that someone had made by sticking it. The sticky got removed, and then everyone was like, oh, okay, so nothing is going on, and then they sort of have to bow down.
But what happened is that in as like recently, Guild Wars tends to send out these little gifts for every Living Story that pops out. Don't you want some of this stuff?
Dude, I would have loved that watch. I don't think I'm entitled to any of it, but Jesus, that watch looked cool.
Right. You know how much it is, right? A friend, a guy messaged me. He's like, oh, they found it on Reddit, right? And I'm like, oh, okay. On Amazon, you can actually buy this. It's about $100 regular price for one of those watches. So I thought it was like some cheapo watch. No, it's a legit pocket watch.
It's wind up as well, right? I think, did they send multiple watches out, or was it just to the one admin? They sent out multiple, right?
Yeah. Richie got one from the Guildcast, and I'm pretty sure Gary got one. The Guildcast people got one. So it's crazy. Like I could make a video and show this stuff off, but anyways,
dude. Oh wow, well, nice attempt there to like get your fingers in that pie there.
Yeah. Hey, dude, I want to watch. If I'm making videos for Guild Wars 2, like really, like I want to collect stuff. Okay.
Well, no harm.
I want more toys. Exactly. No harm in trying. I mean,
do you want to tell people though what this is about, right? Because this is really cool, and some people might not be in the loop.
Right. All right. So the watch came with a poem, right? And all right. So let me just read it out. Story time. Tick tock goes the clock. It's almost time for time to stop. Something you all must understand. Your world is built on fog and sand. You're out of time. Your jig is done. It's time for Scarlet to have her fun. She has some hard lessons to teach to the people of Divinity's reach. So mark the date in permanent ink. The hour is later than you think. On the 20th day, she'll start her games and warm her hands over Kryta's flames.
Oh, I think we all kind of saw that coming, right? That there's going to be a fight
obviously.
at Divinity's Reach. Even just from the Living Story stuff. But that is damn cool that ArenaNet went out and went to members of the community and gave them this cryptic poem with like a cool pocket watch that has a Guild Wars 2 symbol inscribed on it. Man, that's damn cool.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you make of the poem as well? I'm curious as someone again that's not entirely clued into the story.
Very simple. Scarlet's gonna come and cause trouble. There we go.
What do you think of the line, "Time has come for time to end"?
Like, I don't know, like with the whole Thaumanova reactor, like it seems like a tie into there, but of course it can't be a tie into there, right? Or Ellen Keel as well. Like it always makes me wonder if there's a bunch of ties into Ellen Keel and the Thaumanova reactor and stuff like that. And you remember when you were saying like Ellen Keel that was in Lion's Arch, the hologram, her eyes are actually red.
Yeah.
What is that?
The thing is, I don't know whether that's just sort of an artifact of the way that the body was rendered and they had like specified eye color, and maybe that was the default eye color or something. For as much as people say like Ellen Keel is evil, and as much as I've sort of mentioned that theory on my channel, I don't necessarily believe it. I think that her character in general is pretty clear cut. You know, she's always sort of been the nice guy, and there's a lot to be said for, you know, a lot of these Ellen Keel's evil arguments. They talk about how she did it to get on the council so that she could find funding for the Aether Blades and stuff. But a lot of people do forget she was sort of persuaded to go on the council by another character, Captain Magnus the Bloody Handed, and like you, the player, get to see that happen, right? And yeah, you could say, oh, that's just a facade, but I don't necessarily believe it. So yeah, I don't.
What do you think? What do you think of them giving us the choice, right, to pick which one to vote for? But Ellen Keel was always going to win, right? I think that kind of that idea in concept I quite like. But I also don't think if they were going to do something like that, I don't think they would have done it the first time ever the players got a choice, because that kind of just removes all trust that the devs actually that we do have a choice, right? I think maybe if they were planning on doing that, because presumably we're going to get more choices in the future, right? Presumably after the Queen's Jubilee we're going to get something else, and it'll be like, do we save this character or this character? You know, any number of choices that are going to come up, and we're going to en masse be able to decide again. And I think maybe it would be the second or third time we get a choice like that. It doesn't really matter, and then they do that like 180 on us. Otherwise, I think, you know, I don't think they would have planned for that. You know, oh, we'll give everyone a choice, but it's going to be a fake choice, because that would just bitter people to the whole idea in the first place. You know, right. So I doubt they did that too.
But yeah, I mean, the poem, the whole Ellen Keel evil thing aside, I think that there is a lot of merit to this idea that the Aether Blades do have some tie to the Thormanova reactor, and that they are from like another dimension, because they are just popping in all over the place. One thing I did a video today, but I haven't put it out yet, right? I might have by the time this video goes out, but I mentioned in it, basically, while you're doing the New Living Story stuff, have you noticed, right, just before the Aether Blades attack, Logan gets locked in his little cage, and then the Aether Blades attack, and just as they attack, like, it gives you an ungodly amount of screen shake, and then a load of Aether Blades just popping out of nowhere. And it's like, well, where did the Aether Blades come from to me? And that's maybe a valid question. Maybe it's not, because a lot of time enemies just pop up all over the place in Guild Wars 2. But on this occasion, you have a load of Aether Blades just suddenly appear inside the capital city with nobody knowing how they got there, except the devs also give us loads of screen shake as if something significant happened to cause them to come in. And I like to think maybe it's that they've popped in somehow. And you look at the mysterious stranger too. Let's assume she's Scarlet, and let's assume Scarlet's the leader of the Aether Blades. She's just like teleporting all over the place and just laughing, and then she just blinks away, never to be seen again at the end of that mission. It all seems like these people just are like traveling in and out of time and space. Well, not necessarily time, but certainly space. They're just flipping all over the place.
Did you ever see when you're going for the balloons? I think it was when you're going for the balloons, when you do the escort quest, sometimes a hole is ripped in reality, and like these dredge come down. What is that?
Well, that happens with loads of enemies. Like, it's not just Dredge, but the Aether Blades too. All of them. And again, you can kind of look at that as, oh, that's not got any story significance. That's just ArenaNet giving a cop-out excuse to spawn new enemies in. But, you know, they do have a significant animation. I did read this one thing where this guy was like, hey, look, teleportation's been a big theme of all of this New Living Story stuff. It seemed like a bit of a shambles to say it. But, you know, he did point out some interesting stuff. You've got, like, portal devices that, you know, we're now getting in-game. And there's lots of little things to do with teleportation and, you know, space travel like that. So I don't know. And to link it back to the poem that we were talking about, time has come for time to stop. You know, that could be talking about literally, you know, stopping space-time or some crap. There's another one, something, your world is built on fog and sand. Fog in particular, that says to me something to do with the mists, right? And the mists are what everything in this universe is built off of. And when we're talking about, you know, traveling through the mist, we are talking about traveling through different realities and universes and worlds and stuff. Not necessarily universe, but worlds and stuff, right? So, you know, it seems to sort of tie in for me. Lots of different things are, which I've got some faith that, you know, we're going to see a resolution.
Right.
But I did also read that, like, you know, people have been data mining stuff.
Yeah, all the time.
I've not read any of the data mine stuff, and I definitely don't plan on spoiling that on like this. But I have read people saying that after having data mined what's coming next patch, they are disappointed.
Ooh, that can't be good.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, people hype themselves up to incredible levels. I get very excited by the prospect of all of this stuff. But I tried to temper my hype. And, you know, these could just be people that were expecting insane stuff that just Arena never followed through on. They do have a bit of a track record now. Would you agree in saying that they can hype people for stuff and then not follow through? Mm-hmm. Do you think they've got a bit of a track record for that?
I never get myself hyped anymore for a lot of this stuff anyway, especially for the Living Story. Recently, now with this stuff, I do get a little hyped now to see what they're going to do. And hopefully it's just good enough for me to like say, oh, okay, that was fun.
Or more likely, you're never hyped. The one time you do get hyped, they disappoint you.
Yeah, oh, please. That would be pretty bad. Hopefully they don't. And so far, this event has probably been the best. And speaking of this event, the farming. Okay, this is something that some people hate, some people agree with. We had this big discussion on Guildcast, right? And most people are against me with this. The farming in ore, right? Or recently, of course, the champion bag loots, right, have been dropping, and people have been farming them and finding new ways to farm them. There's one in Frost Gorge and there's one in ore, right? I've done both for hours and hours and hours. You have done ore a lot as well, right?
A lot, yeah. That's all I've been doing this last week.
So we all know the event. This is the event. This is how we farm ore in farm champions in ore. So first you start off, and there's a quest. There is a escort quest that you can take towards this camp, right? The Eye of Zaitan chain, as it was called. It's actually really hard to get to the camp unless you're coordinated properly. So what happens is you escort these NPCs to the camp, and champions will spawn, right? And you have to kill the champions. And make sure that if a bomb icon goes around your head, right, which is like some type of condition or whatever, it will explode. If it's if it's near the champions die, right, and then you have to restart it. For people who actually make it to the camp and complete that event, there's an event that spawns just a whole bunch of ambers, champion ambers, and people just farm away, and you get tons of boxes from this. Tons of boxes. Now, what people do is they fail the event, right? So they can repeat the event over and over again and keep failing the event. If the event is completed, it's on a 2-hour spawn, and that's why people don't complete it. So people say that this is an exploit, right? And that people are going to get banned for this. And this is the first time I heard of it was on Guildcast, because I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think of it as an exploit in my head. All those other situations that we have had in the past with people salvaging things and all that type of stuff, those are obvious exploits and not intended. For this, everyone fails events. Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense to me that it's an exploit.
It's curious, isn't it? Because it really is just a choice of how you're playing here. I can definitely see why people say it's an exploit. It's definitely an unintended reward that ArenaNet are giving you. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can define an exploit, really. I think what it comes down to, though, is this impacting other people's enjoyment of the game in like a really significant way? And I think sometimes the answer to that question is yes, because in theory, I'm not 100% sure how the whole meta works, because sometimes we've been doing the Embers and Arar is open, but sometimes we've been doing Embers and Arar is closed, and in those situations you're denying the access to the final dungeon, to the end of the personal story essentially, so that you can farm. And there are people that it will be very rare, especially at this point in the game's lifetime, but there could be people who want to play in Arar and you are constantly failing the event over and over and over again. And to swing it the other way as well, there are people that that you can have a minority of people, you can have just 2 people that deliberately cause the event to succeed or try their best to cause it to succeed, which negatively impacts everyone else's enjoyment of the event at the same time, right? Just because, you know, they're trolling or whatever. I think it's definitely not ideal for the game because it does create a lot of animosity. It is incredibly annoying when you do get a bunch of people that, for one reason or another, maybe they're just, maybe it was just honest ignorance. Maybe they were like, oh, we're farming this event, oh, we've got to kill these so guys, the way that this works is everybody just fights embers and doesn't do anything else, but you can complete the event by breaking these objects high above called cauldrons. You break the 2 cauldrons, a boss spawns, you kill the boss, and the event succeeds. Now, nobody wants that to happen, but you could get someone who's just ignorant and they just come in and they're like, oh, this is a cool farm, but I guess we want to finish the event, I'll go damage the cauldrons. Nobody else is doing it. Maybe they don't know they're high up. They break 1 or 2 cauldrons and then they just get the wrath of 50 people in map chat screaming at them in map chat like kids, and then they get a stick up their ass. They're like, oh wow, okay, wow, all of these people were complete dicks to me about this, now I'm just going to keep doing it over and over and over again, and then they just start trolling people. And it's a real shame because, you know, only 5 guys might have shouted at them in map and now they're damaging everyone else's farm. But that's what happens. I've been doing this loads. If people are going to get banned for it, I'm going to get banned for it because I basically farmed a legendary for it.
You farmed a whole lot more than I have. Holy crap.
I've been farming that pretty much 24/7 because it's insane loot. But it is definitely an undesirable thing in the game right now because, especially when you do it as long as I did it, you start getting really annoyed when you're in a group and people don't understand. Like, everybody's asking for staff guardians and staff Ellies at the moment. Staff Ellies? Why? And it's because they think that the staff Ellies have some insane AoE for tagging or something. And A, that's untrue, and B, it's not about tagging loads of different mobs while you're there. It's about doing a certain percentage of damage to the boss so that it actually drops a box for you. Because the Zergs are so large, if all 5 of you in your team aren't doing a considerable amount of damage to a certain enemy before it dies, you're not going to get credit for that kill, and you're not going to get a box. So, like, there's a lot of really stupid stuff going on there at the moment. It's very annoying.
All right, so for my opinion is that, okay, yes, I can see what people are talking about. I can't see why people get really mad about it. Like, why is it such a thing? Like, oh, people are going to get banned for it. Like, it's such a big thing, because it's not. For me, I don't think it is, because people who have been actually farming for a very long time in Guild Wars 2, people who actually really play on a consistent basis and actually get money, got legendaries and stuff like that, they know about the farming spots. They know that sometimes you fail events to get karma. It's always there. And every time that there's a problem, right, ArenaNet would either nerf it immediately, just like the Crown Pavilion. You remember when they had a whole bunch of champions?
Yeah, with the Centaurs.
They removed the champions from the Crown Pavilion, and they nerfed it, right? Because people were getting too much money. Now, you're getting way more money at OR than you ever were at Crown Pavilion with the champions. So that does have something to say that said, okay, maybe you're getting a little bit too much gold from this event. Right,
dude, definitely. This is more gold for one farm than has ever been in Guild Wars 2 ever, unless there's some really small obscure thing a couple of people have kept very close to their chests. This is insane money. It's crazy. And is your point that they haven't nerfed it yet?
Well, they haven't said anything, and they haven't nerfed it. They haven't touched it at all. Why is that?
Why exactly?
Why is that? Why haven't they said any? Like, I just imagine, like, everyone at ArenaNet just kind of sleeping on their desk, like, yeah, just not doing anything. Yeah, right. They're actually doing something. It's either like, you know, if they don't know a solution to it, they don't just want to cut it from the game.
I think it could be that. I think that it's not a quick fix.
Yeah.
And because it's not, you know, with the champion centaurs, that they could okay, we'll remove these spawns, especially considering that stuff isn't a permanent part of the game necessarily. But here with this chain in OR, and not just any old dynamic event chain, a dynamic event chain that is tied to the meta event to push for Aura, they want to be careful about the way that they nerf it. Now, you know, an easy way would be, oh, just demote all of those champion embers to veteran embers, though,
right,
in my opinion. So they could do that at the same time, but maybe they feel like that's not adequate, or maybe they feel like there's a much smarter fix that they can do. Because here's the other thing you've got to consider. Every single OR event is rigged to spawn a bazillion champions if there's a bazillion players. Every single one is. It doesn't matter what event you go to, there's going to be that number of champions there if it's some kind of defense thing, or it's in the same sort of structure as that one with the embers. So if they nerf this one, I feel like it would be very easy to go to, like, shelters or Pentinent and basically just do the same kind of thing there, just get an insane Zerg and just farm spiders or something.
If they nerf this one, it's really not going to make me sad, because you get the same amount of money in Frost Scourge. Now, Frost Scourge is another way that you can actually farm champions.
This one I've not done.
This one has no events, and I farmed this for like 10 hours yesterday. This one has no events that you intentionally fail and gets on people's nerves. None of that, right? All you have to do is pretty much run with the commander or the Zerg and just kill champions as they spawn. And there's a certain route that you do it. That's it. And you get around the same amount of boxes, in my opinion. And you don't have to worry about people trolling in the chat. I mean, man, the community over there in OR is just so trolly.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. That's the main reason why I feel like this has to go. I'm not going to miss it either. It's because it gets so many people's backs up. But are you sure it's the same amount? I mean, the embers, when the embers are going good, you can get like 40 boxes in 10 minutes. That's a lot of boxes.
Well, see, the thing is, not everyone gets those boxes.
You need a good team.
Yeah. It's all about you were explaining this to me before, is that you need like a 5-man team, and it has to do enough DPS, especially when there's a lot more people around it. Because I remember in Black Gate, if you can tag them 3-4 times with burst, and it's just like not enough. Like, it has to be insane damage.
And you know, the one small thing that I do like about this, if only because I find it an interesting insight into the way Guild Wars 2 functions at its core, is the mechanics here. It kind of becomes like a little bit of a mini game to get those tags in. You do end up getting 5 players and trying to make sure everybody's got like plenty of damage, and you know, you all have to move as a real unit, and you're pinging the right guy. And like the culling right now, a lot of people get really annoyed because there is insane amounts of culling. Most champions will be 100% cold from the moment they're born to the moment they die during that event, unless you get into melee range with them. And like, I learned through this how to deal with certain types of culling. Like the game will remove culling as long as you're in melee range or something and you manage to hit it. So there's all these crazy little tricks you end up learning, and I found that kind of interesting during the event. But I can also see why that event would be insanely frustrating, especially if you're alone, especially if you're for whatever reason on like cleric's gear or something, trying to get tags there. Then you're just going to get barely any boxes at all and just get frustrated, especially when skill lag comes in and stuff, you know.
Well, guess what? In Frost Scourge, you don't have to deal with anything, and pretty much if you tag it even a little bit, it gives you loot bags. I don't know, like I guess it's because it's not too crowded. It is crowded. It is very crowded, but it's not like it's usually in ore, right? You don't only do the escort mission, by the way. You actually run around while the escort is about to spawn. You know, there's like a 10-minute window. Yeah, you can kind of go around and kill the giants, some of the other ones, the fishes,
the rave, the mage.
And then you come back. Then you come back. Those, they always drop loot. But when it comes down to the culling and all that in that mess that we call a camp, right, where all those embers are spawning, it's so hard to get drops from there. So hard. So I think it has something to do with like a mixture of culling and it glitching a bit and just having one champion to burst down. And maybe it's because, you know, like, or maybe like something totally separate. Maybe it's because of the 5-man team thing where it's not, we're not all separated, right? We're all attacking one champion and we're all getting tags. You're automatically going to get loot.
Well, the other thing is, because you're not a Zerg moving around and waypointing constantly, because it's 10 minutes all in one fixed location, that's 10 minutes worth of time for randoms to guest to the server and meet up with their friends and all join on that one tiny little spot. And that's why the culling ends up getting so bad. So my question is when, because this will be nerfed. It's very curious to me that they haven't nerfed it, but this will be nerfed. It cannot continue to exist as it currently does in Guild Wars 2. It's ridiculous. But when it does get nerfed, I'm wondering whether that's going to offset those massive Ember Zergs and put them on the Frostgorge Zerg and stuff, and then we'll have the same problems. And my hunch says probably no, because it's not so static and you're constantly moving around. But it will be curious to see what the next big one's going to be, as ever, you know.
Yeah.
For a lot of these farms.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I want it to stay, but of course, I mean, come on, really? Like,
well,
it's probably what if it stays? What's the entertaining idea? Because they haven't said anything, they haven't done anything. Obviously, there's gonna be some type of nerf, right? But what if it stays? What is your opinion on if it stays? What's gonna happen? Legendaries are gonna be easy to get, right? First of all,
well, no, if it stays, first of all, Ara is just going to be a pain in the backside forevermore, and you'll basically always have to get, if you're on a high population server and that farm stays, like Blackgate or Tarnished Coast or something like that, you're forever going to be guesting away to smaller servers to get to ore.
I know that ore event is going to get nerfed, but what if the boxes don't get nerfed, the box itself?
I think that might be likely to happen. I think really bad offenders in ore I think the Embers will get nerfed, and they might even preemptively nerf a lot of the other ore events, because like I said, they're all rigged to do that. It's just Embers is really convenient. It's close to a waypoint and a vendor and stuff, and you know, it's on a short cooldown, blah blah blah. But I think the boxes will probably stay as they are. A lot of people say, oh, the boxes are going to drop down. These farms should stay because it's going to drop tier 6 map price. It's probably not, though, because the boxes themselves are infusing so much gold into the economy. Like, and we have seen prices drop slightly, but people just don't realise. Like, I've earned a lot of money from farming this, and that's not money I got from the trading post. That's not money out of other players' pockets. That's fresh money that's just been infused into the economy, that's been generated for me. And what that means is essentially there's more inflation in the game now, and even though people are getting more tier 6 mats, they're also paying more for tier 6 mats. So and every other item by extension. So I don't think prices will really change that much. If anything, they'll just continue to slowly creep up as they have been doing since the launch of the game.
Because I tested this, or it's not the only farm. Frost Scourge is the same thing, and you still earn a lot of money per day, and you can still from Frost Scourge get anything you want. What's the highest thing on a trading post? Eternity, right? What's to say around 2,000 gold, right, for a legendary? You can get that within a month. If you farm easy. That's if you're lazy and you don't farm so much every day, right? That
well,
easy.
I think you got to put effort in, but yeah, it's doable, definitely. Especially right now because the boxes are kind of new and you can still get lucky with some of the drops.
Yeah.
Like I got an entropy earlier today. That's 50 gold just out of nowhere, which I wasn't even really trying to get. It just came because I was getting the money from the bags, you know. And then that was 50 gold that came out of someone else's pocket. But yeah, so I mean, especially right now, it's really easy to get that stuff. I think those little perks will go away after a while, but I don't know. It's interesting because players are always going to flock to the optimum farm, right? So, you know, they'll nerf Embers, maybe they'll nerf the current champion rotation in Kershaw, and maybe they'll even nerf the rotation up in Frostgorge. Then it's just going to be everyone flocks to another one. It will be nice if they eventually balance it so that everyone's going for the vast majority of champs around the entire game world. But I don't see that happening very easily. But maybe it will, because there's already a lot of waypointing going on, yeah?
Yeah.
Taking advantage of Ellen Keel's little bonus. Do you want to
Best
talk
thing ever. Yeah.
Did you want to talk as well about the other farm, the third farm that I mentioned to you just before we were recording?
Oh man, yeah. Go ahead. People might hate us for it, but I mean, people have to be 30 minutes into the video to actually listen to the beautiful tips of getting lots of money. So go ahead, yeah.
There's another farm as well. I've not tried this, but I know it exists. I've not tried it really because I don't have a profession that can do it very well. But the third farm is the Queen's Gauntlet at the moment. The Queen's Gauntlet, which has been confirmed, will be returning for future updates with different achievements and stuff, and you'll have chances at the achievements again in future. But if you kill a tier 3 boss with 5 gambits active, which is one of the achievements, you get like 40 silver for that one win. And in theory, you can get that win in just a couple of minutes. So if you can get a profession that does this reliably, that's a very good way to get an awful lot of money. And people have been farming Deadeye. Deadeye being basically the easiest, squishiest, I suppose, character in the tier 3 bosses. Thieves, I think, Mesmers, I think, and Guardians all have builds that let you face roll that guy with all of the gambits on. And if you win, you get to keep your tickets. I think you get to keep your tickets, or you get your tickets back, and 40 silver each time. And if you just get a partner who, in case you die, can res you up or whatever, and it's just the two of you at one of those little arenas, you just go in, kill Deadeye, kill Deadeye, kill Deadeye, over and over and over and over and over again. And we're talking we're talking like 1 gold every 2 minutes or something, because you can score 2 kills on him in 2 minutes easily, and it just racks up, man. And that's basically the other farm. I can't speak specifically to it because I've not done it myself, but that's the one thing I always hear as well while I'm farming in the Kershaw. People are like, oh, hey, how does this compare to Deadeye? That's the other big one people are doing. And that one, I mean, will be removed, I guess, because the Gauntlet's going to be an activity. And you can kind of tell as well, did you notice? Like, if you look in your achievements, you can open up Living World, and one of them's got like the nice purple icon for regular Living World stuff, and the other one, the Queen's Gauntlet, has got like the orangey icon for activities.
Nah, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it was like a little hint, I suppose, that was in there a bit. So yeah, that'll be coming back as an activity. They'll probably nerf that when it returns, but that's another really good way to farm money. So,
all right,
this is sort of the farming patch, right? That's what I.
Yeah, pretty much, adding all the farming to it. All right, I guess we can head into the questions. Ooh.
Questions. Okay, we're ready for the questions.
Yeah, I'm ready. This DJ in the background is just booming his music.
Okay,
so it's
cool.
Good. So if you hear a little something, you know.
He can provide, like, you know, like there's a little jingle that will play on news shows, like, at certain points. He can provide our jingle for the question section. It's like, what do you guys think about the new dungeon reward system? I really appreciate the fact that people started running different dungeons. What do you think, Matt? Oh, sorry, that was from that was from Simon is Fording. So, lovely name. All right.
I gotta say, first off, I haven't run too much of the dungeons because of the farming, but when I was running Cough, I was running Cough just the other day, and it seems fine. For a lot of people don't realize this is a set amount. Like it was saying 1 to 3 gold, right? Incentive when you complete it, depending on the difficulty and how long the dungeon is, right? It's actually a set amount. So even if Path 1 takes you a very long time, if you don't know how to do it, it's still going to give you 1 gold.
Yeah, that's fair enough though, right? I mean, otherwise people could just finish it and then go AFK and then swap onto an alt account or something and then play again and then just get ridiculous rewards.
What? Go AFK before they defeat the dungeon?
Yeah, you know, if it's scaled,
that's not good. I mean,
Yeah,
come
I
on,
know,
1 to 3 gold. Come on, it's not really that good.
what I found stupid is they were like, oh, it's 1 to 3 gold depending on length and difficulty of the dungeon. We seem to have put a lot of thought into this, and then it was actually okay. We've given every path of every dungeon a flat 1 gold rate, but we'll put a couple of Arar paths to 3 gold and Ascalon to 1.5. That's what they did, and that seems really off to me. It was like I was running Citadel of Eternity, Crucible of Eternity, and you know, you get 1 gold for that, and then you finish, and you know, some of those paths can be hard, especially if you're in a sort of a crappy team.
Yeah.
And you finish, and you kind of scratch your heads and think, damn, man, Ascalon Catacombs is worth 1.5, and yeah, you can't skip everything in Ascalon Catacombs anymore, but that was AC is way easier than what COE is. And it does make me wonder a little bit. You know, the gold incentive. I'm actually not that happy about this. That's what I say. What do I think of the new dungeon reward system? I'm not that happy. I don't think the gold was done very well, and it's actually harder to get tokens now as well, I think, right? Because you get 60 on the first run, and then it's like 20 for every other one, instead of going like 60-40 or whatever it was before. I can't remember. Oh no, or was it 60-20?
It might have been 60-20. Man, I haven't run so long.
Okay.
I used to run these consistently every single time, every single day, multiple paths.
So I shouldn't really comment on that if I don't know 100%, and that's totally fair. But I don't know. I don't see massive incentive to do a wide variety of dungeons. I think once these farms we were talking about earlier have been removed, then yes, we may see the primary moneymaker, which was once COF, now goes to some kind of rotation through dungeons. And the idea of certain guilds being better at certain rotations of dungeons, because, you know, they're experts at COE but not Arar, so they run COE instead of Arar, while other guilds are really good at different dungeons, that's quite exciting to me. I quite like that idea that everyone's got their own unique little...
I was thinking of the same thing, but I would say they update the reward just a tad bit, right? And everyone just kind of runs through the dungeons, right? And if they they said they're gonna redo some of the dungeons to rework it to make it a little bit better. So when they do that, it actually becomes a little bit better, and they update the rewards a little bit more. I can see people kind of like, okay, we want to make money. This is how you make money. You run through Ascalon Catacombs all paths, and then you run through this other dungeon all 3 paths and stuff like that in the most efficient way, right? And then they earn like, I don't know, like 20 gold in that little bit of time, and they know exactly what to do when they get inside a dungeon, and they complete it very quickly. They can speed run any of the dungeons,
but it's a variety.
Yeah, but it's a variety. So really, I mean, not to say it's not going to get old, because obviously it is going to get old if you keep doing it, but you know, but it's something different.
In principle, I do think that dungeons should probably be the best way to earn money in the game, only because even if, yes, you're repeating something a lot, the dungeon content and running through those dungeons is still much more engaging than doing like champion rotations where you're in a massive Zerg and essentially you only need to auto attack. I think that the more engaging content should be the most rewarding content, and meeting up with people, being in a 5-man group, a more social environment with, especially if you look at like Arar, a lot of it's implemented poorly, but there are interesting mechanics going on in all of the dungeons, really. So I think that if that is the primary that should be the primary way to make money, because even if you're repeating it a lot, it still remains engaging, right? And it's going to take longer for that stuff to get boring than it is for waypointing around to champions to get boring. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what. So in principle, I think these should be the best way to farm. They can't compare to current farms in the game. Definitely,
yeah,
they can't.
Yeah, because when you kill a champion in Ore or in Frostgorge, you're like, oh yes, I got a box, and you're so excited for it, you know. In dungeons, you're like, eh.
Oh, there's a chance. Isn't it like if you kill a champion at a lower than level 80 area, or lower than an area where it's definitely going to drop an exotic, you've only got like a 50% chance for it to actually be the good bag, something like that, right? So the bags themselves aren't as good in the lower level dungeons, so the champion loot doesn't even come into those. It's just this new incentive of gold at the end the first time you complete each path, which can't compete. So yeah, I mean, once Embers is gone, once the Frostgorge rotation's gone, maybe we'll see it. But it's too early for me to say on that, because right now I'm not that compelled to do dungeons, especially the harder ones, because there's not the gold reward isn't there.
Right.
Next question, opening it up, is from Death6 Avatar, or Death VI Avatar, who says, do you guys have any suggestions for someone that's actually wanting to run dungeons for skins but can't due to a lack of people even wanting to run them, and instead are focused on these bi-weekly updates that take people out of the core content? I understand that tons of people have been there, done that, but I'm so casual that I haven't yet, and I've played since launch off and on.
I guess the first thing we should probably mention is the LFG, Guild Wars 2 LFG. You might
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, you might want to go there. Even then, though, if you can't find many people on there, the LFG tool is coming in, because I can see a lot of people, like players, not knowing that the LFG tool on that website exists. Because, you know, that's kind of word of mouth. You know, people kind of find out through word of mouth. So I can see that happening, and you're not finding enough people for that, you know, that dungeon or path that you want to go through.
What I would say with GW2 LFG, first of all, obviously, ArenaNet are adding their own dungeon fighter in it at some point. So you could just sit tight for that.
At the end of the year, yeah.
But for Guild Wars 2 LFG, if you want to run a dungeon and you've had a look on that website and there's nobody listed for it, I guarantee every time I see that, I just type looking for 4 more, and then I type /join list, which is my character name, and then you get people inviting themselves into your party, and within 20 minutes or so, you'll have a team. And every time someone joins you, just reset your GW2 LFG posting to, instead of looking for 4 more, it's looking for 3 more and 2 more and 1 more. And as soon as people see that you're only looking for 2 more, just the invites coming all the time. I never have any problem just running dungeons just because I want the tokens. And I think even players that have been playing since launch hardcore, they still make new characters, and when they do, they might be like, oh hey, I want Twilight Arbor armor for my new engineer, which is exactly what I did. So then they'll be on LFG. The other day, I'm like very close, because of all this ore farming, I'm about to get my 2nd legendary, but I needed and I was just talking about COE, I needed the Gift of Knowledge from there. That wasn't for, you know, speed farming or anything, that was just I needed tokens for that gift. So I went to GW2 LFG for that, and that's exactly what I did. So it is kind of worthwhile. I think a lot of people still are there. The only other thing I would say about your question as well is people only focusing on bi-weekly updates.
Did we answer that question before? I think we did. Didn't we?
What?
About people are so focused on the events, and, you know, like, it'll take away people from, like,
the living story stuff, the living world stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, all I was about to say is I think that is core content. That is a core pillar of what Guild Wars 2 gameplay is right now. That is a large part of what ArenaNet considered to be fun endgame. And it's not traditional content in any way, but I think that is core content for Guild Wars 2.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong. I mean, maybe this person doesn't think there's something wrong, but it just, I wouldn't say that's taking people out of core content, and there's nothing really wrong with being a player that only focuses on living world stuff. Because that's some of the best stuff, let's face it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you gotta understand, once you do your dungeons or whatever you want to do in the game, after that, you're gonna be like, what do I do? And then you're gonna be asking for what? Oh man, what happened to the living story every 2 weeks? You're gonna be wanting those, because other than that, there's not much going on other than, you know, the stuff that we've all been playing, because people have been playing this for a very long time, almost a year now. Woo.
Yeah, anniversary coming up.
Anniversary.
Very exciting.
With a mini pet, you're excited about a mini pet?
No, I'm not. I thought
I was about to say, I was like, you're excited for that? I mean, I like the scrolls. The scrolls are good, because you could level up a new character.
I thought, okay, Guild
Trying
Wars
to be positive.
1. Guild Wars 1, it was 1 year old. Hey, you get a whole new set of minis. Some of them are rare, blah, 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 blah. This is really cool. It was really well done. Guild Wars 2 is like, oh, hey, you get one specific mini. Yay. I thought, this was my awesome idea, and maybe it was just impossible to implement. I thought characters that were a year old could have 2 minis out at once. And then if you got 2 years old, 3 minis out at once. And then maybe leave it there. But, you know, I thought that'd be cool. Yeah. You like that idea?
Yes. I would like Pokemon following me around, of course.
Dude, and there was going to be Polymorph Arena, which could have been to do with minis and crap. Oh, whatever. I was a little bit disappointed in that. Anyway, next question, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, Alexander Klein says, "Hey Matt, question for the next video. Do you think ArenaNet will maybe continue the personal storyline? For example, there will be a new evil. I can't think of anything. Maybe a new dragon. It would be a good idea to put in all the places you can't get to."
Obviously, of course, they're gonna extend it, but just to mention this for people who do not know, the living story does not go with a personal story. Like, this is something that's kind of not separate, but like on the side. Like, nothing would extend the personal story through the living story. And that's something totally, you know, on its own. And the personal story, they're saving those for those big updates, which they're, you know, the Guild Wars 2 style expansions is what most people are calling it, because they want to do their own style of expansions, right?
Yeah.
And that is what it's saved for, and that's where you're going to see the personal story.
Yeah, which I find pretty cool. I mean, there's no ETA on it though, right? I mean,
no.
That's what I
we'll
really
see at
want
PAX
an
though.
ETA
We'll see what happens.
Well, hopefully, PAX has always been like their go-to con, so there could be cool stuff.
And GamesCon as well. GamesCon is at around the same time, like a little bit before.
Yeah, but I mean, like PAX is on their back door kind of thing. Like,
right, it's in Seattle. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, we might see more there. But so far, it's living story stuff, I think, that they're focused on. And yeah, there probably will be a new evil. Not a new dragon, it will be an existing dragon, but will be, you know, I guess a new dragon in terms of we're not looking at Zaitan anymore, we're looking at a different one.
Right.
But yeah. Okay, next question. Hey guys, great podcast. This question might not be Guild Wars 2 related. This is from Christopher Lindqvist, by the way, who says, "I'm still curious, what are your impressions on the Wildstar MMO that's coming up? Are you guys open for that one and other MMOs in general? Love to hear you guys talk on that topic, on some upcoming MMO games. Really make my night shift a lot easier to have this to listen to, so thanks." What do you think about Wildstar?
Okay, so I've played this. I'm not sure I'm supposed to be saying this, but you guys are cool.
Oh, I'm breaking NDA.
Cool.
I'm only online with a couple of thousand people listening.
From what I've played, right? It's been good, right? Everything's been good so far. It's in beta right now, so everything changes. I mean, come on. I'm pretty sure Guild Wars 2 in beta looked really bad. You ever seen Cube World in beta back in the days? It looked horrible. Oh my gosh.
Still looks bad. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Wildstar, from what I played, is pretty good. From outdoor, you know, without playing it, from what I've seen from the trailers and stuff, the community for Wildstar is like great. Like the dev speaks and stuff like that, they're hilarious. The humor is great. I actually want to do some content for it later on, maybe, if it's interesting. I've done already a video, so calm down.
You jumping
potatoes.
ship? What is this?
No, nah, I don't. I'm not a person to really get too hyped on something unless I'm like, just like, oh my gosh, this looks so good. You know, I want to actually play it first before I'm like, okay, this is actually pretty fun. You know, and still to this day, I'm happy to have been playing Guild Wars because, you know, just the polish of the animations and stuff like that. And that's kind of from Guild Wars. I look onto other MMOs and I'm like, it has to have this from Guild Wars, and that happens quite a bit in Wildstar.
You were talking to me about Wildstar, weren't you? And you basically said Guild Wars 2's got a lot of quality of life things that you forget it has, and then you play Wildstar and you're like, oh man, I've got to compete for loot.
Yeah, you know, exactly.
Stuff like that.
For someone who's not really interested into it, what do you think about Wildstar?
I mean, I really don't have many thoughts at all. I've seen a couple of trailers. I've had a lot of people sort of talking to me about it and nagging me about it and saying, oh, hey, you know, oh, this is the MMO for hardcore players. And I do think my heavy involvement with Guild Wars 2 is somewhat mismatched because it's not a game that favors heavily on the hardcore side. And, you know, I play this game an awful lot. And I do think, you know, I'd probably have a better experience in some other game. I think there are a lot of really interesting mechanics and things that I love the idea of. You know, I like the idea of like player killing and stuff, you know, and there's no place at all for any of that in Guild Wars 2. So I do think there is sort of room in my life for a game maybe like Wildstar if it's offering those things, but I've not spent the time looking into it, to be honest, because I mean it's a new IP. What's their business model? Like, I don't even know their business model.
Right. So the business model has not been announced yet. I find it very sketchy for subscription fee. There's so many MMOs recently have failed for subscription fee that were pretty decent, like SWTOR and Secret World. They fail on subscription fee, and I need to be careful. For me, if they want to add some form of subscription fee, it would have to be in a model of like Dungeons and Dragons and Lord of the Rings, where it's just a premium thing, and as long as that it's not, you know, like it's bad for players who are playing for free, it should be, you know, it should be fine. You know, you just get extra convenient features as a premium, and you're wanting to help the company. If Guild Wars 2 had something like that, I would happily put down the money. If I was getting like weekly gems, like an allowance, you know, for your moms and stuff like that, you know, you can get weekly gems, weekly something, you know, for just paying them money, and it would be an incentive to do the premium. Those are the subscription models I'm fine with. Subscription model scares away a lot of people, and they feel like they have to play the game in order to justify them paying $15 a month, and I think that's a problem. But also, just to, you know, give you a little bit more on your question, I don't think I answered enough. Wildstar has this thing called Elder Game, right? Which Endgame, they're saving everything, like all the good stuff for Endgame, right? Because everyone likes to, you know, like speed their way through levels and get to Endgame. They don't like to enjoy the game. You know, they don't like to play through the story like, you know, like a Mass Effect or something like that. They think of MMO as reaching Endgame, right? And, you know, that's, you know,
don't you think that's a tradition that should be broken?
Well, Guild Wars 2 tries to break that as well, with the personal story and stuff like that. And the personal story was okay. You know, so they Guild Wars 2 tried with that, but the areas in Guild Wars 2 are amazing, right? You enjoy leveling up. Well, the first couple times you enjoy leveling up, because after that you're like, I've
already seen this.
Yeah, I've already seen this. I just want to level up. But yeah, for people who are just getting Guild Wars 2, you love that leveling process. It's fun seeing all the events and all the story and all the voice acting. Yeah, huh?
How are you comparing that to Wildstar, though? What are you saying Wildstar's?
All right, so Wildstar, there's no voice acting, right? Well, at least yet, right, during the story. There's lots and lots of quests, right? So you go here, you do this, you do that, you do that. And they're not bad. Some of them are fun, but most of them are traditional quests. And then there's some dynamic events that are thrown in there as well. Not as quite as dynamic as Guild Wars. Not to like stab them or anything. I'm obviously like the game, but like it's not.
No. You don't understand. If you say the slightest thing mean about either game here, people are going to be on you. So.
Well, it's in beta, so far that's what I'm seeing. And what's happening is that most of the story content and all that is going to be at the end game with all the story stuff. They're having a lot. They're putting an emphasis on end game and even calling it a name called Elder Game. Also, classes only have one weapon and stuff like that. Like, that's kind of sketchy a little bit. It's not gender lock, for people who are wondering. It's not gender lock, by the way. Even though I kind of like the girl Space Bunny other than the man Space Bunny. Just looks kind of natural.
What do you mean gender locked?
Yeah, I thought that the game was gender locked.
Meaning you can only play if you were a boy, or it would be all
depending on the race. Depending on the race.
Oh right. Okay.
You can only play as a girl or whatever like that, and I hate that. I hate that in games. I do not like that.
Oh, dude, no, come on. That's not. If it just adds a little bit of flavor, then screw it. If it's an all-female race, then let them be an all-female race. As long as it's not, as long as it's your own, as long as there are some options that have multiple sexes in them, then that's fine. But like,
no, I'm talking about all of them. Like in Path of Exile. Sucks. Path of Exile is gender lock. I didn't mind it too much in Path of Exile, but it was there, and I'm like, I have to play with a guy for this. I have to play with a girl.
You had to be a witch. You can be a wizard, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's just little pet peeves. I just don't like it. In certain games, it just really irks me. In certain games, it's just, especially those dungeon crawlers that has no story whatsoever, you're gender locked. I think that's just
like,
no.
For this game, for Guild Wars 2, I was a massive advocate of the Sylvari not being male or female, and if you picked a Sylvari, there was no option for male or female, because in terms of the race in general, it's provided nothing but headaches for the devs, the fact that they're a female Sylvari with boobs and stuff, and people are constantly asking about it, and the way that they reproduce and stuff. So it's always made sense to me that race just didn't have genders, but no, they had to write in that they had genders, and so that people could have that option at character creation, and I always just thought, you know what, you've got 4 races that you do have the option. Well, why not have a bit of a kooky race that you don't get it? I quite like it in small amounts.
While you're on that question, like not question, but it's a question that we're gonna answer by Minnie, Fed the Unicorns, right? Why do Savaris have boobs? You know, when they're not male or female, they're just a plant.
Here's the thing with ArenaNet. They never give you a solid answer to it. There's just a lot of potential reasons, and you'll probably find it as a mix between many of them. But my favourite really is well, see, it gets complicated because we see Sylvari from other pale trees, and they also look anatomically similar to humans. It could have something to do with the Sylvari are somehow descended from the druids, who were humans that eventually transcended their mortal forms and became like spirits with the Maguma jungle, and the Sylvari are now in the Maguma jungle, so it could have something to do with that. Or it could have been because the pale tree was born on planted on a load of graves of humans, and the Sylvari sort of mimicked them because they were at its roots. Or it's because as the pale tree grew, it saw like Ronan the human and it took inspiration from him. But then the question is, why wouldn't it take inspiration from Ventari the centaur? And why? Because if it took inspiration there and that was the only reason, then maybe we'd have loads of Sylvari that look like centaurs, like just planty centaurs.
I'm pretty sure you heard of this. You remember the first concept art for Sylvari? How there weren't just plants, there were actually like humans with like leaves on them?
Oh, right, yeah, no, yeah. That wasn't concept art. That was the original implementation of them in-game. And if you look at the earliest... Yeah, if you look at the earliest versions of Sylvari in Guild Wars 2 trailers, they were basically just green people, and they were totally uninspired. And that's because they didn't have the concept, and they didn't have the work fully fleshed out for when they were unveiling the game at that year's Gamescom. So they just sort of splashed it out there, and then one of the devs took it really to heart to change things up and make them look really good, and then we got sort of this new concept for them. But yeah, I mean, that's sort of separate. They've always there's always been male and female. But yeah, the idea is, I guess, they're mimicking humanity or whatever. And they don't really need their reproductive organs, but they'll have sex for pleasure kind of thing. And that's where it's funny because sort of that's established. But every time they have to talk about it, someone else has got another question and someone else has got another question. It's just people that are just getting their jollies off on just stupid stuff in MMOs. And it's always been funny to me. But yeah.
Next question.
Do you want to go to the next question?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. How did we get from Wildstar to that? That's insane, dude.
Okay.
This one's from Self Open Hell, who says, hello Matt and Wood, what are your thoughts on making gold in SPVP or getting experience? Do you believe this should be implemented or should it be avoided? What are your current thoughts on PvP rewards?
Okay, so I'm the noob, obviously. If any of you have watched the PvP series, we just went into rewards actually, and for me just going in, me being a noob, not knowing much, and finally figuring out that I can do this, I thought it was really cool how the system was, right? And you have a different opinion because you've been playing it for a while, so that can kind of speak of, you know, after you actually get into it, you kind of change your idea of the whole reward system and being like, it's all right. But so far from what I've seen and what I've done and what I started doing in opening up boxes and crafting and stuff in PvP, I actually enjoy it. Now, earning XP and what was the other bit? XP and what?
Gold.
Gold. That would be cool, but I don't think they would do that because... I mean, it would give people who are actually all up into PvP, right? Those guys who are like around 70-ish PvP level.
There's probably like 2 people in the entire game that are around rank 70. But yeah.
Or 60 or whatever.
60,
and they can earn more money or something like that in PvP and have an incentive to actually go into PvE and actually use their money to do something. Because some of them don't even have a level 80 in PvE. And I found that just mind-blowing. Like, how do you buy the game for PvP? I guess
because the devs made out like it was going to be this great esports thing and greatly disappointed many players. My thoughts on this are, I agree with their idea of keeping them entirely separate. PvE is separate from PvP, and they just don't blur the lines at all. But, you know, at the same time, those lines are blurred straight away because people are making dyes and getting bags and stuff from PvP anyway, that are benefiting them in PvE. But also, there's a mismatch because there's a lot of rewards you can get in PvE that are unavailable in PvE. Look at stuff like the Dragon Wings, yeah? You had to be a PvE player to get the Dragon Wings, either to get the money or just to earn the Dragon Wings, to then convert them back to being a PvP skin. So that left a lot of PvP players out in the dirt, basically, because they were like, well, I've got no money, I don't understand anything about Lion's Arch, I don't know how to do the Dragon Bash, I don't have a player at a high enough level.
Well, suck it!
Yeah, so they're kind of screwed. So I think you know, giving people a little bit of a gold, either you have to be able to get everything in PvE as well as PvP, and literally everything, and stop favouring PvE players. Or, yeah, a tiny little bit of gold to PvP players might go a long way, you know. Not just to reward heavy PvP players, but maybe also to entice some PvEers over and get, you know, the ball rolling a bit more on the community. But, you know, I can see why they refuse to flat out at the start, and I can see why they may continue to refuse to too, because these are very separate entities. Right. In the first game, the hardcore structured PvP gave you really tangible rewards for your server in the PvE world. It gave you access to the end game, basically, at launch. And eventually they were like, no, this doesn't make any sense. You can't only give the God Realms to certain servers. We should lose this feature. And then they made it entirely separate. And they tried to bring that philosophy with Guild Wars 2, but for obvious reasons, it's not working. So I wouldn't cry out if they had a little bit of gold to PvP. Definitely not. Next question is from Mike Spadaroo, who says, do you think the events in the pavilion are fun? Because of all the skill effects from the players, I can't see what to dodge and die if I try to go in melee. So I use a ranged weapon and spam skills until the boss dies, or until I die, but that's no problem, I'll just run back. I believe that these fights are not challenging, and people do them for the rewards, not for the fun of playing. This is also true for open world champions and guild challenges. Do you think ArenaNet should improve this system?
Well, I guess for me, ArenaNet's been trying to work on this whole effects thing. And that same patch, Jubilee, they actually tried to improve the effects. I haven't seen a difference for me. A lot of people in the chat, in the comment section, said that I've seen the improvements, but I didn't see any improvements for me.
I've seen negative improvements. I've seen now in 5-man dungeons, my Mesmer time warps, and there's no skill effect for it, so you don't know that you've been time warped unless you see the quickness go up, which kind of sucks for such a key skill. But
I wouldn't know how they would fix the whole spam of effects, right? When because Guild Wars 2 is based on this whole world event stuff, right? Especially in PvE, and you're gonna get effects. You're just going to get effects. I don't know how they could fix it, other than giving you an option to just turn off all effects, which would be kind of weird, wouldn't it? You wouldn't see anything.
I think,
except for yours, maybe turn off everyone else's effects except yours.
That could be kind of cool, you know, just maybe basic projectiles. It is very, very difficult to fix that issue. I think one thing other MMOs have, you know, there was a lot of talk about the Trinity, and Guild Wars 2 is removing the Holy Trinity. The one thing the Holy Trinity is incredibly good for is very large group content, because everybody has a defined role. In Guild Wars 2, it's a DPS race, and you know their new soft Trinity that they added just sort of doesn't really work at all, especially with mechanics like Defiant in the game. And there's been a lot of criticism thrown at Defiant for a long time. And I think there has to be major revamps to fix that, but so major and so vast it would involve going to pretty much every world boss they've added, every single event that highly scales. Yes, the skill effects are a large part of it, but they're definitely not the biggest. It doesn't matter even if there were no skill effects at all, even coming from me, the content is still pretty trivial, and you can still get by. You can still auto attack the Claw of Jormag a couple of times, then go AFK and make yourself a pizza and come back and get a chest. And it's going to be incredibly difficult to fix that. When there's a large Zerg, it's pretty trivial. And it's very funny to me that Guild Wars 2 is a game that removed the Holy Trinity that's so strong in those large group environments, and then also became a game very much focused on large group content. Now, I saw, we were talking about the farming and people complaining in Kershaw. One guy, it really stood out to me. He was like, oh, how can a game so built on massive fights have so bad massive fights? And that's sort of... I kind of agree with that.
I do as well. It's like, okay, why do I get low FPS every time? Like, this happens. Like, I would have thought they would have tested this from way before, and even like at Gamescom and PAX and all those conventions that were showing like the Shatterer fight, it was still like a little bit laggy, a bit, and I was just like, I didn't really notice it back then, right? I didn't really think about it back then. Every MMO I've played, I never had this problem where there's just too many people on screen and it lags and stuff. Guild Wars is the first to actually make me have that problem. And to be fair, I'd never played an MMO that did this type of wide open world stuff like this. So I mean, hopefully, and they're removing culling, right? And they're gonna add options, by the way, guys. Just like in World v. World, they're gonna add options to, you can change it the way you want it. Right. Do you want the crazy effects on their armor and stuff like that? And you're going to be able to change that. So it'd be good to see how that works. Hopefully that improves the whole overall like experience with the world events. But we'll see. Is the Crown Pavilion fun? It's in the middle somewhere for me. It's there. I stopped doing it because of the better farm, right? Before that was like, oh my gosh, two champions every couple minutes. This is like the best thing ever. But then we go into other places and there's so many ways you can farm champions a lot faster.
I think the pavilion's pretty cool actually, in terms of, we were just talking about when you get massive Zerg content, it does get very mindless very quickly. I think that Centaur boss in the pavilion actually is a pretty good boss, because even with
kills
an insane
everybody.
Zerg, it's a very simple ability though. It's the barrage, and you can dodge out of that AoE. It gives you time. It's balanced just sort of perfectly, in my opinion. But it will still wreck people that are just sort of face rolling and auto attacking.
Yeah.
So I think they are very slowly getting a grip on what makes better content. And funnily enough, those embers as well in the Ember farm, they're pretty well balanced too. They will like two-shot you if you are in any of their AoEs.
A lot of people die.
But as long as they're not cold, which you can fix for yourself by going into melee range, as I said earlier, you can see their animations and you can see the red rings at all times. You really can see the red rings, despite all of the skill effects. And you can kind of dodge your way around and be safe and not die. It does make it very difficult to melee. I'll agree with that, definitely. But it changes though, because like with the Centaur, once everybody's meleeing, he doesn't use his barrage attack anymore, and it's a worthwhile strat against that boss in the pavilion.
All right.
So I think they're getting a hold of it. I like this next question. I'm curious. And I know what you should answer, but we'll see. Okay. Next question is from Chris Starflamer, who says, Matt, what do you think WP looks like?
Okay. So all right, listening to his voice, right, and then I don't know what we were talking about before, but we were talking on Skype, and you told me something about glass. Oh, it's about the Oculus Rift, because you have the Oculus Rift.
Yeah.
And you said, something about your glasses. I was like, whoa, wait a minute, you have glasses, and you're like, yeah, I wear glasses. You kind of showed, like, trying to dust it in the corner there, like, oh, it's
I'll keep dusting it in the corner as well. I don't wear them that much. Ever since I was a kid, I have been, I've had glasses prescribed, but I only have to wear them like at very certain situations. I have noticed recently, though, I prefer to wear them more and more and more. I think my eyes are getting worse as I get older. But I don't. I'm holding them right now. I don't often wear them, but yeah, I've got glasses.
All right,
and they're quite thick framed as well. Actually, they're quite thick framed black glasses.
That whole, like, it goes towards like WP is always British people are always reading books and they're always so smart.
Yeah, I've read like 7 books in my life.
That's what Americans think. How does, like, I guess we should start with size, man. I'm thinking you're like a slinky guy, like just very slinky. I'm thinking
slinky,
like you eat a lot of fattish foods, but I still think you're like one of those people that just
eat a lot of fattish foods.
Dude, you always tell me about the chocolates and the pizza.
That's because you always have to eat salad. I'm just eating regular stuff.
Regular stuff.
And I'm like, I had a Snickers bar this week, and you're like, oh. He eats like a king.
Well, that's because I'm eating grass most of the time, and that's how I lose weight. So it's crazy. But yeah, oh man,
The thing is,
what if Weepy has like freckles, like little freckles, a slinky guy with freckles and glasses? Let's go with that. Let's go with that. I have no idea how you look. Like you could be a model, or you can just be like just huge guy just breaking your chair right now.
But I thought your answer was going to be that I look like I do on Skype. My Skype picture?
Like a potato.
Yeah.
Like a potato with headphones on and little legs, little black legs. Yeah.
That's what I thought you'd be thinking.
You know, we assume because you're British that you're white.
Yeah, I am white. I said in a recent Daily Deal that I was white, I think.
We did. I get confused
with
all the speculation.
Maybe I shouldn't have revealed that.
Oh,
I've made like my Guild Wars 1 LPs. Like my first ever character was a black character. I've got several black characters in Guild Wars 2.
Oh, okay. Oh, next question.
Next question is, hey, I have a question for you. What do you think about adding the ability to upgrade your legendary weapon to a new weapon with new skills after it's been used a certain extent as an initiative to get your legendaries? For example, your legendary greatsword, if you have 2 of them, would fuse to one weapon, being still 2 swords but acting like 2 weapons. What? Okay.
The second one is a little weird, but I definitely believe there needs to be more of an incentive to get a legendary. I like the system that they're implementing soon, which is the stat combo switching. That's an amazing idea. Just an amazing idea. And just think about the builds you can do with the legendary armor when you get it, right? Man, upgrading, that would be interesting. That would be interesting and very easy to kind of implement, you know, and it could go by XP and have a little bar under your skills, and they could kind of add that into other weapons as well, not just legendaries. I guess high-end weapons, but I guess if you want to keep legendaries very sacred, that would be the way to do it. But what do you think?
I don't even know where to start. I think, yeah, there should be more incentive to have legendaries, but not by adding skills to them and stuff. Just improve the effects. Like, I'm looking to get the Bard after the one I'm hoping to get as soon as Balthazar opens, and the Bard is kind of a rubbish legendary at the moment. But, you know, if they update the skill effect, the sound effects on it, and just improve its visibility overall, give footsteps to the legendary weapons that don't currently have footsteps, you know, then they can add that incentive there.
Wait a minute. His question was getting XP and getting skills?
Yeah.
What
do you think? What do you think about adding the ability to upgrade your legendary weapon to a new weapon with new skills after it's been used? So not only is he saying you have to grind for a legendary weapon, you have to then upgrade the legendary weapon that you've now got, and then you have to use it a bunch to gain experience for new skills. Skills.
I don't know why. I must have thought of something else. I do like the XP bar thing. I like it having XP bar, not for new skills, because that would just kind of, some people would just hate that and it'll be like, oh, it's unfair. But like, I don't think that would balance very well, especially because most of the times when they add skills, they add it to skills for PvE and PvP, and it's just it gets into a gray area that's not good. Effects, yes, I have to agree with you. Effects need to be updated. Like before, I think the moot was, I didn't know that it even had the effects on the floor, like a dance floor effects, like kind of like a until like I saw it recently while farming. This guy named Brovikin, this guy had the moot, and it just looks so cool. Even though I would like the actual mace. It's the mace. It's called the moot. It's a mace legendary, by the way. It gets brighter. For the people who do not know. I wish it was a little bit brighter, and maybe it was like a disco ball. You know, that was my thought of it and stuff like that. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think that with the legendary weapons, the idea of giving them exclusive skills is a cool, at heart, I think that's a cool idea. Do I think that works for Guild Wars 2? No, I don't think Guild Wars 2 is the game that could have that at all. I don't think it's got the community that would appreciate that. It just sort of goes against everything they've ever said about grind, because what if those skills are going to have to be useful for it to work as an incentive in the first place, and if they're useful, people are going to be very annoyed that they have to grind hardcore to get them. I do think legendaries need a bit of a touch-up, and as long as everything remains 100% cosmetic, here's a really controversial thing I think would be awesome, okay? And this person included it in their question. They said upgrading a legendary weapon. You know they're going to bring out more legendaries at some point. Another generation of legendaries. I think this would be cool, and I'm not saying that they should do it. I think it would be cool if the Gen 2 legendaries used Gen 1 legendaries as precursors. I think that would be awesome, because how prestigious would a Gen 2 legendary be at that point? I think that'd be so cool. That would blow my mind.
Yeah, that would be great. The thing is, if you like the skin of the Sunrise, for instance, that would be a problem. That would be the only problem, though, because I like that idea of hands down.
That's the problem. It's like, oh, okay, because then you're always going to be viewing the Gen 2 legendaries as upgrades of your Gen 1. So I would be looking at my incinerator and looking at whatever I build the incinerator into, and ArenaNet might not have that creative freedom to make the Gen 2 dagger look totally off the balls different, you know, completely different. They wouldn't have that opportunity, and there'd probably also be a bit of pressure there to try and make them look even more flashy, and then that's just not, it's going to take away their artistic opportunity there. So I think there is a problem with that, but I like the idea in theory of you know, having these big goals that incorporate the original legendaries in. I think that'd be really cool. But yeah, I mean, as for adding they will add new skills to our dear question asker, but probably not tie it to legendaries. I think there's plenty of incentive already. It's just some look rubbish and they need those specific effects to be tuned up.
Yeah.
Question 10 out of 11. We're almost done. I think we actually already did one of these. Why do Silvari have navel and breasts? I think we kind of answered that already. Yeah. It's mostly just a pander to people who want, you know, I don't. It annoys me. I really think they would have been such a good genderless race, and I don't know why there was such pressure, internal pressure, or whoever ArenaNet decided no, they have to be male and female because people otherwise won't understand or something. I don't know. Come on, they should have been genderless. They always should have. Anyway, also, what do you guys think about wedding couple mechanics in MMOs? As someone who's used to having an experience bonus when playing as a couple, special couple items, emotes, etc. in games with those mechanics, I kind of miss it in Guild Wars 2. But friends say that even though it might fit many Asian style MMOs, it'd look ridiculous in Guild Wars 2.
Okay, I have experience with this. I don't think it's ridiculous.
Is that because you're married? Is this why you have experience? Because you're married?
Well, yeah. I mean, people are gonna be biased, like, oh, I never found a woman to love me, and they're gonna hate me because I agree with this whole thing. All right, so I've played MapleStory. I've gotten married in MapleStory, right? And you get like these special dungeon that you can do and stuff like that. It was a whole community event, and you see like all the friends there, and we took screenshots and stuff. I thought it was quite fun.
Was it an actual woman that you were with, or was it just like your bro that you were playing the game with?
No, my wife. My wife played MapleStory.
Oh, really? Oh, that's kind of cute, man. Okay.
Yeah, it's great. But MapleStory was, I used to play, I think, a lot, way too much, and spend way too much on it. Yeah. So we're not gonna talk about my bills on there. But I think it would be good. I loved it in MapleStory. It's just like this side thing that you know, Guild Wars 2 can make some extra cash with. You know, people who want to marry each other in the game and have some type of special feature just for them. That'd be great. What do you think for a person who's not married? Or are you?
I wouldn't. There's the question. I don't know. I wouldn't really think anything about it if they put it in. I'd probably be a little bit weirded out. I'd be like, right, okay, I don't actually know that many women who play this game. So who am I going to pick? Like, I may as well just pick one of my obviously male guildies.
You can marry me. That's no problem.
I'll just marry MattVisual, and then that'll be. And that might be. That's just. And then that's just kind of like a little kooky thing that maybe I'd care about once, but it depends. And then what? You just fire and forget, and then you've forever got a bonus? That doesn't really sound like a very interesting feature to me anyway.
But it's not meant to be like, not everything has to be like this grand thing, like, oh my gosh, you know,
but
like
but on that topic though, if it's not a grand or some element of the gameplay that's going to be persistent or is at least going to seriously entertain people for 2 weeks at a time, as the Living World stuff does, then there's going to be a lot of people out there who say it's not worth ArenaNet developing it. We want better stuff. We want them to focus on other stuff. And that's going to be the argument there, if you really want to get down to the nuts and bolts.
Well the thing is, with that, they can say that for anything, really. Well, like, I don't like what you did with these features. Who cares about World v World? Why update World v World Mastery? Who gives a crap about that? You know what I'm saying?
Because some people people exclusively world. You know, there's always an argument for a lot of these things. I'm just saying
Exactly,
the argument
yeah.
for doing the wedding stuff is probably weaker.
Oh, true. I agree with that. I mean, it's not a feature that, oh my gosh, I want it now. I want it now. No,
I
it's
will
not a
say
feature like
though,
that, but yeah.
I like when I was a lot younger, like I don't know, as a young teen, maybe. Oh God. Yeah, I don't know. I definitely a fair few years ago, I was playing Perfect World, and in that game, like male characters could pick up female characters and stuff. And I used to have a lot of fun on. I've got to be honest. I used to have a lot of fun just like carrying people around on that game, and they'd have.
Could you carry them and fly at the same time?
Yeah, because I was like this
Wow.
fairy cleric dude that could fly from level 0. So I would just like pick up this person.
Oh, you had the
and
elves.
just fly
The elves
around.
can fly immediately, right?
Yeah, right. So that's what and that was fun. You know, that
Yeah.
was a lot of. And at the end of the day, I think it is quite a strong feature because it's another thing that gets people socializing and gets people interacting with one another. And I think that's very important in MMO, and Guild Wars 2 lacks that at the moment.
And you
For
could have an
MMO.
event and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
like you can like buy some ticket to get married or whatever, and people can come inside of like some instance in Lion's Arch or whatever, or you can have it just right in the middle of Lion's Arch. I don't know how they'll implement it, but it would just be a great thing. Like, oh, come to our wedding, it's open, and you see like the portal open in Lion's Arch, and maybe it's timed. Like every hour, someone else is getting married, right? And then everyone has to be there at that hour. It could be like a real wedding, but you know, we're probably spending too long on the wedding issue. People
weddings.
Some people don't care, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Okay. The last question as well. This was the only one I picked, by the way. I thought it was kind of interesting, just browsing through. Was from Urson, who said, WP, I know you PvP a lot, but how do you like GW2's PvP compared to GW1's PvP? I used to RA a ton, that's random arenas, in Guild Wars 1, and I think something similar, like a 3v3 deathmatch with random strangers, would work great in Guild Wars 2, especially because the team won't get screwed when they don't have a monk. What are your thoughts? I think you have a really strong point. I think the breaking of the Trinity, getting rid of a dedicated healer, would mean a random arenas style thing in Guild Wars 2 would be incredible. And I do think there is a place for deathmatch. I don't think deathmatch is the be all and end all, and I don't think that adding deathmatch will make Guild Wars 2 any stronger, give it a stronger foothold in the esports scene. But that would be nice. I do miss random arenas. I want that. I want 1v1s, 2v2s, 3v3s, something like that. Can you imagine, just going with a friend and doing team builds with each other, going against someone else? Like, I don't know how esportsy it would be, but I 2v2
would totally be interested into this.
2v2 pre-made deathmatch would be pretty fun. I think that'd be really cool. Just getting together with one other guy. I don't think there's much of a place for 1v1s in the game, really, because the balance
Except for
is so
PvP. I want it in PvP. I don't care if it's in
Well, you can
balance
do
or
it in
not.
PvP. You can do it in PvP.
PvE.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay. And in that case, yeah, it's just a fun little feature. Yeah, put it in there. It's a gear grind thing anyway. Whatever. Just do it. Yeah, I totally agree there. And it should have always been in PvE like that. Again, another thing that allows people to interact with one another and socialize with one another. But going back to the Guild Wars 2 versus Guild Wars 1 comparison for PvP, the only other thing I'd have to say is the high-level game types for Guild Wars 1's PvP were incredible. I loved the Heroes Ascent was composed of a large majority of deathmatch maps, honestly. But the whole idea of Heroes Ascent progressing through many different maps was very fun, and the idea of eventually getting to the Hall of the Heroes and holding it for a long period of time was also fun. And GVG as well was incredible. I think Guild Wars 2 would... I think Conquest was a mistake, and I think that if the game had launched with a solid Guild versus Guild game type based off of Guild Wars 2's professions and combat mechanics and stuff, they would have the perfect storm. It would be an incredible game right now. But instead we've got Conquest. I would love to see those original Guild Wars 1 game types, particularly GVG, come back, but 5v5 rather than 8v8, and I think that would be insane. That would be really good. And RA comes second.
I can't wait to see what they do with the new types. They have to add new types.
Eventually, I think they will, and I think they've been talking about working on new ones as well. I think they've tested a lot of stuff that we haven't seen. They talked about how they've tested capture the flag before and all kinds of stuff. It's just it was never eventually implemented in the game, and we may see it.
Here's a question though, like all these features that we're now getting, which you kind of feel like they should have been in the beginning of the game. What if Guild Wars 2 launched right, and it had all these features already in the game.
Do you know why that's such a pertinent question as well, Matt? Because we're coming up to the 1 year anniversary of Guild Wars 2, right? So we can pretty much be like, look, yo, this is all the effort you could have put in if you hadn't rushed the game out. But at the same time, I think a lot of the changes we've seen go into Guild Wars 2 are changes that could only have happened because they've released the game and it has...
Right, because people test it.
Yeah, and it's been in a live environment, and they have insights now that they never would have had before. I think, you know, perfect world, if they had all of the insights they now have, and they had that extra year's work, I can only imagine, man. I can only imagine. In that case, though, they also should have delayed the unveiling of the game by another year as well, because people were already getting very restless. You know, they already had hyped the game so much this time last year that would have just petered out if they had delayed the release much longer. But, yeah. I mean, it's always an interesting thing to think of, definitely. And especially when you look at like the end of Aurora and stuff, it's sort of like, oh, man, why did you rush it in the end? Damn you, NCSoft, or whoever was behind the rushing of the game, because somewhere it was rushed at some point. But yeah, that's the end of the questions.
Do you think like Kanta, right? Like the honest answer to that question was Kanta was like the last thing they were working on, and like, oh, you gotta go it out now. You gotta do it now. And like, oh, you know what? Let's just put a big hole in Divinity's Reach. There you go.
I don't know what I believe about that Divinity's Reach story as well. I really don't. Like with the Great Collapse. But I mean, I will still see Cantha. I don't think that was ever like. I don't know. Were you in serious just now? I don't think that was in the original
I was
plan.
joking. I was joking.
Okay, dude.
Anyways, guys, that is the viewer questions. If you wanna leave questions, do it in the comment section below, and it will be in the next video. Anything else we should talk about? Meaning, like, you know, maybe you're gonna put the picture in the next VisualWood. Your picture, you know, it'll be fine. Go ahead.
What, my IRL picture?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, that'll be. In the
All right,
next
you heard it here
VisualWood.
first. Don't go ahead. Don't finish the sentence.
A photograph of me.
Don't finish the sentence. He said, right? Confirmed. He was gonna show himself on the next VisualWood. You heard it here, folks. Right?
Right.
He's totally not gonna do it.
You'll just have to wait and see.
Watch the next episode. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give me a like, share with your friends, leave a comment, say what's up in the comment section below. And stay visual. Or
bye.
Bye-bye. Redlock has no pants.